Can you clap again? That's easy. Ha! Let's start a podcast. Number 50.
Nice.
Amazing.
We're getting into the golden years of our...
Did you reach number 50 already with your podcast?
Oh, we're at like, I was just looking at that. I think we're at 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've got a new one recorded. I recorded an interview with the guys that I played some shows with in London, Strange Love, or they're from London. And then we've got another topic that Kid Dead and I are recording when we get back. So,
Okay.
2 more on the line.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I end up with 5th now. But this is number 50. SharQ Talk number 50. They're going to be more, of course. But for now, it's I'm going to go get 4 insane weeks coming up. So for now, this is it.
Cool.
After that, will we be back, of course, but working for the Freedom Festival, it's going to be crazy for the couple of weeks
That's dope.
coming up. So
Yeah.
we are in the Nieuwe Nor, the Nieuwe Nor for the Dutch people, sitting backstage with amazing pictures from a lot of bands,
Oh, it's tight.
and I know a lot of bands of this as well. Yeah, Delinquent Happens. See.
Oh,
We
yeah.
were talking about those guys.
Dope.
And My Baby, of course, and The Wolf, Black Oak. They're amazing.
7 Alias. They were talking about them.
No, we weren't. No, we shouldn't. Sorry. Fresco is well.
Redirect.
He is amazing. Yeah. That's great. Great. Sons of Kemet are amazing as well.
It's a good name.
Yeah. They're a brass band. Yeah. But for this podcast, is an introduction to you. Or to your coffee.
Thank you.
Depends on what
Yes.
you want.
This is standard podcast procedure here.
People never hear me do that. I
Yeah.
don't drink coffee. SharQ Sessions Live number 8. And I invited OneWerd. Your real name, Tyler.
My real name is Tyler.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're coming from the States, so that's why we're not speaking Dutch today on this podcast.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, sometimes we talk in a different language.
Yeah.
And most of the times it's English. But now the normal language is Dutch in this podcast. But for SharQ Sessions Live and introductions to, sometimes we have to choose another language.
I'm glad you can meet me on English, because if I had to do
How's
the
your Dutch?
podcast in Dutch, it would be a very short interview. I can now say sugar.
Yeah,
Suiker.
yeah, it's a start. And Heerlen, you can pronounce.
Yep.
So that's good.
Yep.
That's good.
Suiker, Helen.
Yeah. Tonight we are going to have a SharQ Sessions Live again. Number 8 in this time. And
Cool.
this time for the first time hip-hop.
Right on.
And for the best place for hip-hop, you go to Heerlen.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why we are here today. But for the people that missed the show or went to the show and want to hear more, that's why we make this podcast.
Cool.
So who's Tyler?
Who am I?
The best question ever.
I'm an MC and producer from the San Francisco Bay Area. I've been making music, hip hop music, electronic music for probably about 15 plus years now at this point. But I've only really gotten heavily into touring in the last, I think 5 years or so. And the music that I most consider like things that are still part of my I don't know what you call it, but my repertoire of music that I still perform or show to people when I want to share my music is pretty much all within kind of that space of time within the last 5 years or so.
So before that, the 10, 11 other years, you were just sitting behind the screen, rapping into the mic,
Yeah.
and putting it out somewhere online?
I started with all freestyling. I started with freestyling at a party, the very first times I rapped. It was in small circumstances, and I felt good about it, and I got like a good response from freestyling at parties, and so more and more I would seek that out. I would seek out, in the States we call it a cipher, and at that time, in like late 90s, early 2000s, that was really popular. And so like house parties and things like that, there would always be someone, that was kind of like starting that, and beatboxing and rapping. And I found that like I would get into those circumstances, and like I would just like open up, like I would start going, and that, I would kind of like tap into a zone that like it felt like there was more there. Like it felt like I could really keep going, and this was something that like, came, I don't want to say came easily to me. It's hard to describe, but like there was more there that I wanted to dig into, and from the people that were kind of casually freestyling, like I felt like, I was kind of stepping beyond that. And like I know that's I feel like that sounds arrogant, but like it was something I really loved. And so that just had me digging in more and more on listening to hip hop, which was kind of happening at the same time. And I was in the SF Bay Area, so there's a lot of like really cool underground like 4-track tape. It was an era where there was a lot of like underground movements that were happening in the Bay Area with people like the Living Legends, like Anticon, like Zionai. There's a whole like cast of names of these people, soul sides, that were making music on a very like grassroots kind of level.
Yeah.
And there's a famous record store called Amoeba, and they would essentially sell music on consignment. And so these guys were coming in and creating these tapes and dropping that music off into Amoeba and selling it through there. And it really was kind of creating this movement. And that and sort of the advent of the internet, with people doing that, so.
Getting the word out.
Yeah.
But you're a little bit older than me.
Mm-hmm.
So you grew up in the 80s and the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Were you listening to hip-hop back then as well, or did that come later?
I'm always a little embarrassed about that because, people take a lot of pride in being, like raised on hip hop. And there's so many people who I look up to who talk about like in middle school, they were listening to Public Enemy or whatever. And
the cool stuff.
Yeah. And, to some degree, like in high school, like I really got into Method Man and the Wu-Tang Clan and things like that. But like, it didn't, I really appreciated it and enjoyed it, but it didn't pull me in the same way. And it wasn't until I heard that kind of underground hip hop that I was referring to that there was something about it that was different because, like I wasn't really raised in a super urban environment. I was raised in like a suburban environment. And so like the hip hop I heard from Wu-Tang Clan, they're talking about like Staten Island and like, like hustling out there. And I really dug it, but like it wasn't me, And then when I started to hear underground hip hop, I started to hear voices that like I could relate to more, and they were talking about messages and topics that like were different than that. And it started to feel like, oh, like this is something I can do, like this is something that I can use to like express pieces of myself. And that was a big change, I think.
But then you were 24, 25.
At that point, I was, I think, early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like 21.
But before that, what were you listening to?
Before that, I was listening to, like, the first music I really got into. I had a Phil Collins tape. I had a Phil Collins tape, and I think this is terrible.
The one with the circus on front of it.
It was the one with Another Day in Paradise.
Yeah, okay.
Another Day in Paradise, and like Rain on Me or something like that. Yeah. I really like those.
And then Brandy covered it, and then it was gone.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. Yeah.
What?
But it was more metal. Metal was the first music I got into that was like my music.
What kind of metal?
Oh, man. I started with Metallica. The Black Album, and then I went back in time with Metallica to And Justice for All and picked up a guitar and started learning to play that stuff, and that was my first, like, making music, And then I got into heavier stuff like Obituary and Sepultura and Machine Head. And,
the heavier kinds of Metallica.
Yeah.
Metallica is soft in that part.
Yep. They are. They are.
But that's lyrics-wise, then.
Yeah.
Metal is pretty lyric.
It is.
Yeah.
It
The
is.
songs have pretty, how you say it? They speak about a lot of things in metal. It's not always anger, but sometimes it is.
Yeah.
But that's similar to hip-hop.
Yeah.
It's pretty lyrics-wise.
That's funny. I never thought about it that way. Yeah.
Is different. And these days, a lot of this combined, of course. A lot of metal make hip-hop, and hip-hop makes metal, of course. But if you're listening, I can't imagine America at this moment, but San Francisco is Metallica, isn't it?
Yeah, they were. They were. My buddy, my friend, he's a little bit older, and he plays in some rock bands and stuff. And I can't remember if he said back in the day Metallica was opening for them or something like that. They were certainly playing on the same shows, on the same level, because they were a smaller local band. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But I can imagine as well that San Francisco, if you see that on movies, of course, I've never been there. It's more sunny. It's more. It's busy.
A lot of people call it Fog Town, because it's really drenched in fog from that area, like surrounding areas in the Bay. I live a little bit south of San Francisco, and we're just below the fog line, so it's sunny in my area.
Okay,
but the city is.
But that's messed up for the last 10 years, 15 years. But 20 years ago?
San Francisco's always been foggy. Yeah, just the nature of the geography and the fact that it's a bay, and just I think kind of like the air currents and things like that. It's usually drenched in fog, which makes it really cool. Like the fog is definitely part of the character.
So that you'll also hear in your music then? That you're from San Francisco?
I don't know, man. That's a good question.
I didn't hear much music from you because what I found was a few years old.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think that's the same thing you're going to make now.
Yeah.
So don't listen
to the
to
old
that.
stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, please.
And the ones that I do listen to were 3 years old, I think. 2 years.
Okay.
With you in the cab and designed picture. Is that possible?
With me in a cab?
No, with the cap, the hat.
Yes, and like the lightning bolts out of the eyes. Yeah, that's
3 years.
Or even no, that was just last year.
Okay, so that's the more current ones.
Yeah.
The things that I heard of you is like there's no anger in it, like furiously we have to destroy everything, but more lyrics-wise, more passionately, I would say, with great beats, with great producing.
Thank you.
But we came across, and I never asked you that before, but you posted on a reaction of Reason the Citizen to me.
Yeah, what's the person's name again?
I don't know his name. I just know him as Reason the Citizen.
Okay, yeah.
But he's from Canada, I think.
Okay.
And you responded on that because I asked if Reason the Citizen would come to Holland for a show. And you responded, I would like to come.
Dude.
No problem.
Yeah, like connecting with you was super random because I've been working on putting together this tour pretty much since the summer. I kind of set my goal of putting together dates in Europe. And it was challenging because not as many people from the States tour out here. And the ones that I do, the ones that do that I know, like I found they were like very protective of their contacts out here.
Why? Share, people, share.
Yeah, but like now that I've been out here, I kind of get it because like it's pretty amazing out here. Like it's pretty cool. Like part of me like almost doesn't want to talk about it because
No, you need to talk about it because it doesn't destroy your career. That others will come as well.
Sure.
There's enough space for other people to perform.
Yeah.
But you're saying you set up a year ago almost.
Yeah.
Summer last year.
Yeah.
The tour for now. You're coming from France shows. You went to Germany. Today you're in Holland. You go back to Germany tomorrow.
Yep.
After that you go to Vienna.
Yep.
So it's a lot of touring.
Yeah.
How's been touring in the States? Is that the same way that it is here for the things you already recognize?
No, I think there's definitely there's huge differences. So and it's hard because most of it's been in France so far. So that's like my main point of reference.
Of course. And then just one show in Holland, so that's not a reference point yet.
Yeah. But so the difference is so one big difference is I've been taking trains out here. So that's different. Dealing with, there's just a lot of small differences that come from being in another country that present challenges. And then there's a lot of aspects of it that are really, really cool, just in terms of like the social day-to-day living and traveling aspects. Mm-hmm. As far as the music goes, and like the reception of it, that's definitely different. And so with France as a point of reference, like the people there are like so supportive. Like they're really at the show, they're really listening, they're really paying attention. I don't know if that comes from being from the States and kind of being something a little bit different, and that sort of creates a point of interest for folks. But performing there has been so fun because people have just been like dialed in and, really giving energy back, and that's cool. And then talking to people just about, society there and social structures and things like that, it makes a little more sense because there's so many things in place just to support people's quality of life out there, and that extends to the arts, that I think there's more appreciation for art because it's not as capitalist and just driven by the revenue that music is able to create. We were kind of talking about that, Sure. And in the States, it's like I wasn't even aware of that until I got out of there, just how that sort of permeates the way things work there. And so I feel like as an artist in America, like there's constantly this sense of doubt because, unless you're making tons and tons of money and you have tons and tons of followers and you're just super, super famous, that's sort of the only way that to some degree, you feel valid as an artist in the States. And then out in France, like there just seemed to be a way different mentality about it, more of, focused on the identity of an artist. If you're a creative person, if you create, then that's valid within itself. Mm-hmm. So that, I think, affects the way that shows are structured, the way people view an artist, and the way that they interact with you. So
you have been here for a couple of hours now. You see this venue. Is it the same? Is it similar to venues like in the States? Or is
this
the
one's
States
really
more like
nice,
bars and stadiums and nothing in between?
No, there's mid-level venues for sure. It's hard to compare this one because this one is really unique. It's not a huge venue, and it's got two parts. It's got sort of like a small cafe section, and then it's got this sort of like mid-level room. But the mid-level room is really well designed and looks like it has an amazing sound system and treatment.
But there are a lot in Holland like this.
Yeah.
Only different views or different looks. Yeah. But same setup, with a cafe and a venue or 2 or 3 rooms. Yeah.
That's great.
It is great.
Yeah.
We have the luxury, of course, in Holland that there are so many things to do. But I can imagine in America, everywhere, every corner, there's something to do.
I don't know, man. I think that
if you go out on an evening,
do
you need to choose, or just one place you go to?
No, there's things happening. San Francisco used to be this just amazing art and music scene. It was a really creative city. It had just a history of art and creativity, and I think that in the 90s and maybe even into the early 2000s, that was kind of a legacy that was carried on. And since there's kind of been this tech explosion, which has happened over an extended period of time, that has gradually raised rents more and more and more, which pushes out long-time venues, which makes it harder and harder for artists to live there. So in San Francisco, most of that has gotten pushed across the bay to Oakland, which has kind of been, and the East Bay and Berkeley, which has sort of been the place where it's more popping. And now I get the sense that even that is getting gentrified and pushing people out even further. So there's things happening. There's definitely stuff popping, but it's hard. It's stressful.
But of course, it's hard. Making music everywhere in the world is hard.
Probably true. Yeah.
But you had a real successful Indiegogo campaign. Or
Thank
Kickstarter.
you. Yeah.
Was it Indiegogo? Kickstarter?
Indiegogo.
Indiegogo campaign.
Yeah.
For the new album. So that's good.
Right on.
Did you get a lot of people paying from outside of the States, or was it a lot of following back home?
I did. And I think a portion of that came from the fact that I was booking this tour, and as a result was kind of trying to seek out connections and relationships outside of the States. And so that helped. And, you know, that when I do things like that, it's cool because it kind of lends a sense of validity to the energy that I've put into touring. Because, you know, you were talking about a number of people that you felt like they've kind of gone out from Ireland or the Netherlands and they play more abroad and more so than they do locally. And that's one of the things that's a tough balance, is because, you know, when I get put onto, you know, like I've played great shows all over, and when I do Bay Area shows, like I have to be like, you know, kind of selective and careful, because like I can't always draw a ton of people to every single show, you know. Yeah, like I feel like I've put my energy into kind of spreading all over the place. But an Indiegogo campaign is great because, you know, when I advertise that, it kind of reaches out to all these people that I've built connections with, and that helped a lot.
So it went over 100%.
Yeah. Came close to double, and that blew my mind.
It's amazing,
man.
And it was a pre-order, so it means that the record is already done.
Yeah. I owe you some vinyl.
We'll come to that
That's
later.
what you were working your way around to.
No. But when is it coming out?
So that's a good question, because this is an approach that I've never taken before, where I've done a pre-order primarily for physical goods. It's always been a digital release, and so like I've had a very set kind of format for that, where, you know, it's like single video, and then, you know, the album drops, and, you know, digital release all at once or as soon as possible, and then try to tour on that. And this one was all pre-order for physical goods, and then I went on tour, and then a lot of that stuff has arrived while I was on tour, primarily the vinyl, because that takes some time. And so I've got to go home and then ship all that stuff out. And so those are like really my priorities. Was the campaign's the priority, tour's the priority, and then shipping out the goods is the priority. And so then, you know, like the actual like more public release of digital stuff, and like I've got, you know, at least like 3 or 4 videos put together for it, music videos, and it's really weird to like have that content be the last stage.
Normally it's content first, then the physical release or the digital release. So the people that ordered it are gonna hear the music first, and can't share it anywhere because it's nowhere yet. Okay, it's that's gonna be a trip.
Which I like, because I really like rewarding and like prioritizing and like, you know, expressing my gratitude towards the people that have like directly supported it, you know, like.
But it makes the lifespan of the album even longer.
True.
So it's not like dropping the album in May or around your birthday or something, and then but putting it online is going to be June, July, or even later. Which
really isn't a bad thing, because I feel like in this day and age, when you release something digitally, keeping momentum going with that is very difficult. You know, once it's out there, like it's out there and it's done. And I see a lot of artists now that, you know, they will release singles, you know, over the course of a year or even 2 years, you know, and be playing those songs, and people know and are familiar with those songs, and then they get folded into an album. Here are 12 singles you already heard. Right.
Different cover, that's it.
Yeah,
I don't like that. At least
with one intro track added for the album, you know.
But back in the days, you have to pay for every album. So it was one normal album, one special edition, one super special edition, one folded edition, and every time a different track. And then you had the Japanese release, of course, with a different bonus track. And So that sucks as well. If you're a fan, you have to pay a lot for that, but that's how it works. But
The art of the album is kind of just a whole different thing these days, right?
Yeah. And Spotify is dealing that, of course, that how people listening to music. And listening to music, you can do that also to go to venues, go to shows, buy a ticket, and go listen to someone. And some shows are for free, like this one. And I'm gonna plug the next one already, because when you're here this podcast, we announced that there is gonna be a show on the 14th of May. May the 14th of 14th of May? I don't know.
Yep.
Both is okay, I think. In Poppodium Vault. And we have been there at the beginning of this year. And this time we go back with Emerald for a nice show, also in a cafe setting.
You were saying that's like the first time you're returning to a venue. You've kind of done a new one each time, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the one we're lining up for that one after is going to be a return as well. So
cool.
We're closing this sequence of this 10 times a SharQ session in venues we already been. So it's going to be nice. So everyone, I put a link in the show notes, of course. Put yourself on going or attending, something like that. So it helps for me to reach more people. And you're welcome. It's for free, like every SharQ Sessions live. But I pay the artist. I pay for everything. And you can help with that, because when we do it with more people, we can continue this after the summer and make dreams come true, because it's a dream to come to Europe and play shows.
Absolutely.
But it costs money, and it would be nice to have it some covered, of course.
Yeah.
So if you become a Patreon on patreon.com/mcshark, you can help out with this, with podcasts, with SharQ Sessions Live, with all the other things I do, because I do a lot of things. And there's also something new coming up, but you will see that in a few weeks, I think. Depends on when you're listening to this or watching, because we have also a video stream at this moment. Next to the SharQ Sessions Live, you're going to record SharQ Sessions. That's the same. We record, of course, two tracks today with you.
Yeah, it's been a busy day.
Yeah, we're going to release that May, I think.
Okay.
Earliest, maybe later.
Cool.
But we are recording as well tracks.
You're not going to release it till you get the vinyl, right?
No, that's not. That doesn't matter. So some new tracks are coming up as well on the channels that I have on YouTube, on Facebook, and Instagram TV, of course.
Dope.
So more content is coming, and if you want to join, if you want to come and listen to a show, 14th of May. If you want to record a session, I have a lot of time this summer. So if you're an artist from around, I will come over. We pick a really nice spot, and in the summer it's easier than in the winter. But we recorded in an old cathedral thing. Last weekend I was in how do you say it? A forest kind of thing. So we have all. It's easy to set up everywhere.
Yeah, this is a whole like portable rig, huh?
Yeah,
You can pretty much do this anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And for the sessions, we use just the Zoom and some mics.
That's
we don't record a podcast with a SharQ session, but with a SharQ Sessions Live, we do, because that's an introduction. But maybe, who knows, we can do that as well later on. But for now, we focus on recording. And I said we, but just me and the artist. But today you saw we have a lot of.
A solid team.
People extra.
Solid team, yeah.
Yeah, because for the live shows, we need some extra people.
Yeah.
But for recording just the sessions, I can do it by myself.
Yeah. From an artist perspective, you should definitely hit this dude up, because he is breaking his back to create something that is definitely professional. I mean, you can see he's got an artist like me out here. He's not playing around.
I'm really grateful for your words.
But yeah, man, between, doing like the live video, which like, you and your team were well prepared for and took the production of that seriously, and the podcast as well, and then like the show in addition, and clearly, from the equipment that you have and the professionalism of your team, that's providing a lot for an artist in the course of one day on a tour stop. Like that's super dope.
And it helps you to come further, and even when you're back home, have some extra material from what you did back there in Europe.
Definitely.
That helps. I'm not finishing up yet. We are already half hour in, but
cool. Yeah,
it
always goes fast, right?
Yeah. I know. we already opened. I now see.
Trip.
Hi, people. Sorry that I'm not downstairs yet, but doesn't matter. We're gonna start in 20 minutes. Now, one last to end it up with, because you have an own podcast.
Yeah, I do. So I got a podcast called the Imaginary Friends Podcast. It's with my good buddy Kid Dead from Nashville. He's sort of an anarchist, rap, punk guy. He's dope. And so, you know, we've had a few podcasts where we either kind of like choose a topic and prepare and have a discussion around that, or we interview some guests. We've had our good friend Adder from LA, or Tijuana, by the way, of LA. And we just had Chesky Ramos recently, who's the kind of head of this label Fake 4, who's got a dope new album as well. I got to plug Chesky Ramos, Sad Fat Luck. You should definitely check that out. It's an amazing album. And
I'll put it in the show notes. No
cool.
problem.
Right on. Yeah.
But it's an amazing podcast. You
Thank
talk
you.
about music.
Thank you.
Also put in music.
Yes.
So you can hear some new tracks.
Yeah.
Fresh from
Yeah.
the studio.
Yeah, we steal all our ideas from like our friends' podcast and other podcasts we like, and it's nice to be able to kind of, you know, give some other people a platform. So.
But you started the Imaginary Friends podcast.
Yeah.
Why Imaginary Friends? Because they're not imaginary, is it?
Right. So there's a couple other things that name is going to play into that I can't really announce yet, but that's coming soon.
Okay. Cool.
But the idea behind that was we were playing with the concepts of, you know, just art being something that isn't necessarily totally tangible, like the feeling and the experience of it, you know, is something that's not like physically tangible that you can touch.
Okay.
And so like that was kind of the imaginary side of things. And then, you know, for both the podcast and what else we're going to be working with, you know, they're very much about like, you know, trying to create a platform and connect with other people. And so that's sort of the friends part of it. So.
Do you record like this? Around the table, 2 mics, and you go?
I'm in San Francisco,
And
and Ross Kid Dead, he's in Nashville. So
it's
we
Skype.
have a phone conversation, and we both have our own studios. So we're recording at the same time. And then when we have someone else, they've got to have their audio recording, and then we sort of splice all the audio together after the fact. So we're never in the same room together.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like to be in the same room, and I know a lot of podcasters are doing it this way.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine it in my head to do that.
Yeah.
That you're in San Francisco and we have a chat like this.
Yeah.
It
It's
feels
cool.
weird.
It's cool in a way because like, I mean, you know, having someone in front of you, you know, you sort of have like that feedback and synergy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, when you have just a phone conversation, you're also, to be engaged, you have to be completely focused on, you know, what's being said. And that's kind of your point of connection, which for a podcast works well too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of great podcasts that work that way. So why did you start it? Is it because a promotional thing for the artists around you that you like?
Definitely.
Or is it like you miss something and you're like, fuck it. If nobody's making it, I'll make it.
I think I had joined friends on podcasts and really, really enjoyed it and found that, you know, talking about music and art and creativity was as much of a satisfying creative process as creating art. So that was really fulfilling. The opportunity to, you know, create a platform and connection for other people, just the chance to like make something, you know, is cool. And the big thing with that and this other idea that we're going to be working on is it's a funny feeling when like you see other people doing it and it's on a certain level and you feel like I'm never going to get there, you know? And then I had a friend, iAlive, shout out iAlive in Philadelphia. He released an album called Don't Do Nothing. And he had a single on there that was really great that I enjoyed. And I really liked that title of Don't Do Nothing. You know, that whatever it is, like, you know, whatever little like, you know, teeny grain of sand or seed crystal that, you know, you drop out into the world, like everything starts from that, you know, and you know, just like what you're trying to build with SharQ Sessions, you know, you create something and you stay with that and you stay patient, and there's so many factors and reasons and fears that would make me want to quit or would make me want to not even start.
True that.
You know, and I like that idea of ignoring those voices and not doing nothing.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's round up on here. I'll put some as much as I can put in the show notes.
Cool.
So we can link it. What do you want to plug?
I guess I would plug Bandcamp and Spotify. You can find me anywhere. OneWerd, ONEWERD. It's pretty much it everywhere except for Instagram and I think Twitter. I'm OneWordy, WERDY. And I guess I would just plug the album Timeless that's going to be dropping soon as I get these packages sent out. But I'm really excited to share that because
I'm really curious about that album.
Thank you, man. Yeah, you're going to hear some of the tracks from it tonight, but there's
so
definitely...
you missed out if you weren't here.
It'll be there. You'll hear it.
Yeah, no, really cool. And of course your podcast.
Yep. Imaginary Friends, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud.
It's everywhere.
We out here.
Yeah. I'm really thankful that you're here.
Thank you, man. Likewise.
Gonna perform tonight. We already called out that we have to go.
Yeah. Tardy.
Yeah, but that's how it goes every time. No, great to have you around.
Thank you, man.
And
good to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really curious about the show tonight.
Cool.
And for everyone that's listening, I'll switch over to Dutch now. I'm guessing not a lot of English people are listening to this end or this do want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
In ieder geval dankjewel voor het luisteren natuurlijk als eerste. Maar zoals ik al zei, kom ook gewoon naar de volgende show op 14 mei in Poppodium Volt met Emerald. Eva Kroeze gaat daar het voorprogramma van doen. Dus ook die hele avond is al helemaal ready, set, go. Op 5 mei hebben we natuurlijk het Bevrijdingsfestival in Limburg in Roermond. Ook daar is natuurlijk een gratis toegang. En daar komen ook wel hele gave artiesten die ik zelf ook wel heel erg tof vind. Dus kom ook zeker naar Bevrijdingsfestival Limburg op 5 mei. Maar ook daarvoor heb ik een podcast inmiddels opgezet. Want ja, waarom zou ik dat niet doen? Bevrijdingsfestival Limburg podcast, want heel creatief met woorden ben ik daar wat minder in. Daar sta je beter in. Maar die podcast hebben het eigenlijk over de vrijheid en over een aantal monumenten die in Limburg al jaren staan en waar we eigenlijk gewoon aan voorbij lopen. En we willen die toch wel weer meer in de schijnwerper zetten en toch weer laten zien tot mensen even er stil bij laten staan. Dus daarom toch ook even dit oproepje in deze podcast plaatsen, tot de andere podcast, inmiddels staat die ook live. Op ook alle platformen, ik zal er ook een linkje in de show notes zetten. En daar hebben we ook een geocache-actie rondgehouden. En een route eigenlijk uitgezet, zo moet ik het zeggen. En daarmee nemen we je mee naar meer dan 15 plaatsen in Limburg. Van een aantal monumenten die we toch wel wat vergeten zijn. Die rij je misschien dagelijks voorbij, maar je bent vergeten tot er niet voor niks staan. Dus we zouden heel graag willen tot je daar eens een keer langs gaat en weer even stilstaat bij de reden waarom tot ze er zijn. Maar die kun je allemaal wat meer informatie vinden op de website van bevrijdingsfestivallimburg.nl. En natuurlijk de podcast luisteren. Wil je deze podcast steunen, wil je mij steunen, wil je alles steunen met wat ik doe? Patreon.com/mcshark. Maar je kunt natuurlijk ook een review en een rating achterlaten in deze podcast. Dat helpt in ieder geval ook voor mensen om deze podcast wat beter te vinden. En dat geldt voor de Bevrijdingsfestival Limburg podcast en voor de Imaginary Friends podcast.
I like to imagine everything you just said boils down to thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Let's end up that one, and it's okay for today. We're gonna have a great show tonight. Again, thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
And for the listeners, subscribe, and you hear the next one in your iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, dude.
Bye. Cool.